All right, guys, welcome. Today we're going to talk about how to source profitable products away from China. So if you're interested in sourcing from India, Mexico, Vietnam, Europe, or the US, this video is for you. And make sure you stick around until the end. I'll have 4 special bonuses for you guys that will help you quickly source the products you want from the countries that you want. All right. So first things first, here's today's game plan. We're going to review first off the state of the supply chain right now and why you should care, why not, or why source from China. And also we'll go through the replacements. We'll go through 5 different regions that you can source from besides China. We'll also walk you through what products you can source from these countries, where you find these suppliers, and make sure you stick around to the end to get these special bonuses. My name is Gary Huang. I'm the founder of 80/20 Sourcing, and I've been in the sourcing business since 2008. All right, so let's dive right in. First off, who's this training for? This training is for you if you're an Amazon seller, if you're a small business importer, if you use Alibaba, or if you're a 7 or 8 figure seller looking to source away from China. This is for you. All right, you're going to get a lay of the land, as well as you'll know exactly where to source, which countries you can source from besides China, and how to do it in this training today. All right, so first off, I wanted to share with you some data. I actually polled 83 people about the countries that they're most interested in sourcing from. So you can see there's tremendous interest in sourcing from Mexico, from India, from Vietnam, as well as from the USA, all right? And then currently, these same group of 83 people, they predominantly are sourcing from China, as you can see here, about 64%. So there is a lot of interest in moving away from China. I also wanted to share with you this research from Kima, and this is based in the fourth quarter of since the fourth quarter of 2022. So as you can see, China sourcing has been dropping slowly but steadily. Since 2019, they pulled a survey of US and European buyers. In 2019, 61% of people were sourcing from China mainly. And as of fourth quarter 2022, that dropped by 10% to only 51%. So you can see the trend. China sourcing has been dropping slowly. About 6% have significantly cut back on sourcing from China. But at the same time, you can see that there's a lot of growth in these other countries, such as Vietnam, such as India, such as Bangladesh, and some others as well. All right. So the key takeaway is the shift is already occurring. If you're only sourcing from China, you may want to consider, sourcing from other countries. All right. And so let's talk about China. All right. So China is still the king of sourcing. And basically, you can source almost anything under the sun from China. I would say on the whole, compared to sourcing from other countries in the world, it's relatively easy. There's a lot of resources out there that I'll quickly walk you through. But there's also some downsides as well. China is not as cheap as before. Labor costs are rising. There's longer lead times with the whole supply chain, the whole perfect storm. And there's also other issues as well that we'll get into. So these issues also include the COVID-0 policy. As of right now, China still has a super strict policy. People cannot go to China. I mean, I myself and my family, we lived in China over a decade. And since we left China in 2019, I can't even get back, even though my wife is Chinese, right? So China's policies are very strict. It will affect your suppliers. It could affect your sourcing agents, your shipping agents, your ports. Everything could get locked down. I mean, it's really, things can change very quickly in China, right? So that's one reason why people want to source away from China. It's also, if you are sourcing from China and everybody is sourcing from the same place, it's harder to differentiate your product. There's many copycats. And factories as well. Many times factories will sell your own product and be your competitor. And how can you compete against them in pricing, right? So all of these are factors why you should consider sourcing away from China. If you do still want to source from China, I mean, I'm not saying you should not source from China, because they have the widest selection and the deepest selection and the most experience. So I wanted to walk you through some ways that you can find trustworthy suppliers from China. Online, there's a few resources. Alibaba, everyone knows Alibaba. There's also global sources. I like to say global sources is less but more. Global sources is an online website that basically has a database based on their trade shows. So they run physical in-person trade shows in Hong Kong, and they're very strong in a certain number of categories, such as electronics, fashion, home and gift, and travel and accessories. So if you're looking for products in one of those categories, definitely check out Global Sources. I find the suppliers are less but more. They tend to be more vetted because most of the suppliers on the platform, they exhibit in the physical trade shows. So if you think about it, if they're spending thousands of dollars sending their team to a trade show in Hong Kong, they're probably more likely to be a legitimate supplier than someone that just puts up a site on Alibaba. Not always, but it's one of the tools in our toolkit to identify suppliers. A lot of people are using 1688.com. This is a Chinese-facing online site, also owned by Alibaba, and it's actually domestically China-focused, meaning all of the suppliers on this site, they're targeting buyers in China. So long story short, number one, there's going to be a language difference because next to nobody uses English on 1688. Number two, you got to be very careful about the quality levels because on 1688, the qualities are tailored for the Chinese market, and it tends to be a little lower than the quality level you see in the US or in Europe. So just be careful of that. And number three is most of the suppliers on 1688, they do not have what we call an export license. So they may not be able to export the price you want to the US or to Europe. So if you do want to buy from them, you have to go through a third party like a trading company, and then that will add additional costs. So with all of these, I mean, if you are a very experienced importer, then you can consider it. But for most people, I do not recommend it. Canton Fair recently has gone online given the pandemic. I don't recommend it. I mean, it's very clunky, and it's not one of the tools that I would recommend. All right. Also, I wanted to walk you through some of the offline ways to find suppliers. Trade shows are a great way. You don't necessarily need to fly overseas. There's many trade shows that happen in your home country, and also working with sourcing agents could be a good way to have someone boots on the ground in the country. Okay. Next, I wanted to walk you through the replacements. So these are the countries that we want to look at besides China. So we're going to walk you through India, Vietnam, Mexico, US, and Europe, suppliers from these countries. All right. So let's start with India. So India is the rising star. India is quickly gaining traction, and it says, there's a typo here. It says Hecho in Mexico. This should be on the Mexico slide, but I apologize for that. India is the rising star. They're very strong in handmade and unique products. One of the good things about India is most everyone speaks English, so there's less of a language barrier. It will be a little bit longer lead time, so make sure you're able to wait. And they're also very strong in eco-friendly products. And it's also a great way to help differentiate your brand. If you are sourcing from India, a lot of the stuff is handmade, so you can tell a story behind the whole brand. So that can help differentiate yourself from competitors that are only sourcing from China. Next, I wanted to cover some risks and downsides sourcing from India. Number one, I would say, is the longer lead time. It does take longer to manufacture from India and also to ship from India. I'm considering the whole logistics process. You tend to have more frequent communications with Indian suppliers. They may not work as quickly or efficiently and come back to you as efficiently as Chinese suppliers. So just to have that expectation, that's very important. And also quality control. You have to monitor them closely because there's different quality standards that you need to be aware of. Okay. Next, I wanted to share with you some additional reasons why you want to source from India. You can differentiate your products. One of the big benefits is this: there's no tariffs, right? So as you know, since the Trump presidency, there has been a trade war between the US and China, and there are the additional 25% or higher trade tariffs on Chinese-made products imported into the US. So by sourcing from India, you can circumvent those tariffs. In other words, zero tariffs, all right? Also, there's little to no competition from Indian sellers or Indian factories. They're less likely to compete against you, all right? And then you can see that India is the fastest growing exporter, fastest growing sourcing destination for global purchasers. All right. And if you're wondering about COVID, COVID doesn't have much of an impact anymore as of now, and it could be a good time for you guys to source there. All right. And also we're starting to see a lot of the aggregators, the big, these like Thracios and elevates, they're also shifting their supply base to India as well. So that's another trend that we're seeing. All right, so next I want to share with you some product examples that are made in India. So you can see there's a very big selection, starting from wood products to all of these beaded products to fashion accessories, jute bags, leather bags, even cotton textiles and apparel, and also electronics. Apple is opening up manufacturing facilities in India as well. All right, so these are all excellent product categories that you can consider if you're sourcing from India. I know this is a lot, so stick around until the end. I actually prepared a bonus where I've worked with 6 different sourcing experts from all over the world. We put together 100-item product checklist. So you can see which countries you can source your product from. So stick around to the end to make sure you get that free bonus. All right, guys. So let's keep going. Okay, so you're probably wondering, where can I find Indian manufacturers? Okay, Alibaba does have some selection of Indian manufacturers. Global Sources does as well. Another way to do it, and sometimes people don't think of this, is to Google it. Okay, Google your product and Indian supplier or Indian manufacturer, and a lot of times you can find some websites of the actual supplier or manufacturer themselves. Trade shows are another opportunity. The Delhi Fair is the biggest trade show in India. It's kind of like the Canton Fair is like the biggest, the most suppliers under one roof. And there's also export councils depending on different product categories. You can check out Indian export councils. They'll have lists and directories of Indian suppliers. And there's another a very cool website run by my good friend Megla Bardwaj called the India Sourcing Network. So they pre-vet suppliers, and they have live shows where they walk you through different suppliers and their offerings as well. So these are 6 ways you can find Indian suppliers. Okay, next, let's move on to the next country, Vietnam. So Vietnam, I would say, is for big players only, and it's a mistake. A lot of people make this mistake to think of Vietnam as like a mini China. It's not. There's a lot of differences, and a lot of people be surprised. It's hard to find factories. It's slower than sourcing from China, but there's also some benefits, including the free trade agreement, which we'll get into. Okay, I wanted to share with you some types of products that can be sourced from Vietnam. Also, I wanted to credit Cosmos Sourcing, Jim Kennemer, and the team. They're doing a great job helping sellers source from Vietnam. So here are some key product categories of products that you can source from Vietnam: furniture, clothing, footwear is huge. You're seeing a lot of the big footwear makers. Take a look at your shoes, guys. Like if you have like New Balances or Nikes, good chance that a lot of them are made in Vietnam. Plastic, rubber goods, seafood, packaging, wood and metal, electronics, consumer goods, construction materials, even coffee. All right, so there's a lot of product offerings that can be available in Vietnam. But keep in mind, these suppliers tend to have bigger appetites. Okay, they're less willing to deal with you if you're only looking for like a 300 or 500 unit MOQ order. They're more willing to look at you if you're talking about container loads. All right, just the nature of the game in Vietnam. All right. Next, let's take a look at some ways that you can find suppliers in Vietnam. So Google is another good option, and there's some also Alibaba alternatives that we can look at. There's Vietnam Export, there's VTown, there's Global Sources, there's Vietnam Manufacturers, and there's Vietnam AZ and Vietnamese Made, and also there's a Yellow Pages .vn as well. So these are all resources that you can find suppliers from Vietnam online as well as at trade shows. All right, next, let's move on to Mexico. So Mexico, I would say the main difference is the culture, the lifestyle. I mean, I like food, so I'm putting down a lot of images of food here just for people to kind of mentally resonate. Okay, now we're talking about Mexico. I would say Mexico, the main thing to consider is you need to really educate the manufacturers. What I mean by that is that they are less experienced dealing with online retailers, Amazon sellers. So you really have to walk them through some of the basics, even with the packaging requirements, what an ASIN barcode is and a lot of these things that Chinese suppliers may already be very familiar with. You also need more preparation with the details of your order. You really have to hold their hand when it comes to that. I think some of the main benefits I would say is cheaper and faster shipping, because if you look at a map, Mexico is literally south of the border, right? So if you see, it's going to be a lot faster moving your products after they're made in Mexico to the US versus from overseas, China or India or Vietnam or Europe, for example. Okay. Also, you'll have zero tariffs, zero import duties. There's free trade agreements, the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. You'll have, and this can also help with your inventory management, guys, because in terms of cash flow, rather than ordering, like 6 months worth of inventory, you may be able to get by with just 1 or 2 months inventory, because it literally only takes days or weeks to ship the product rather than waiting for months, from a slow boat from China, so to speak. All right. Going back, another thing to consider, the downsides of Mexico is the culture. It's more laid back. The culture is slower. Pura vida. A lot of people, it's the lifestyle, right? It's different. Right? So don't expect them to work insane hours like the Chinese will do. All right. So that's something that you should temper your expectations for. All right. Next, I wanted to show you some product examples made in Mexico. So credit goes to Susana Bermudez. She runs a business helping people source from Mexico. All right. So Mexico, some key products include clothing and textiles, as you can see here, cotton products, 100% cotton, toys, and also home decor, health, eco-friendly products. And you might be surprised, even NASA spacesuits, some of them are made in Mexico as well. So they do have, very high quality type products, cars, even guitars, and, power tools, electronics. These are all available in Mexico. And again, I do have that bonus 100 product country checklist that you can get at the end if you want the complete guide to all of these different countries. All right. So how to source from Mexico? Google with specific keywords. Try to use the vocab, like the keywords in Spanish. Okay, so Google works in foreign languages as well. Go to local market websites, and there's a very cool site called Mercado Libre. This is kind of like the eBay of Latin America. So you can find suppliers there to find some keywords, and then use those keywords to search on Google. And also trade shows. There's multiple trade shows going on in Mexico and in other parts of Latin America as well. So what I like to do is look at the specific industry trade shows. So for example, if you're selling auto parts, look for automobile, auto parts trade show. Okay, if you're in baby products, look for the baby trade shows. Okay, so that way you're more locked in on the right suppliers for you. All right. So one quick tip: when you are searching for these products on Google or these suppliers on Google, make sure you have the correct Spanish keyword, because the Spanish they use in Mexico could be different from the Spanish they use in Spain. All right. There are some differences. All right. Okay. So next country is the good old US of A, the American dream. Hamburgers, hot dogs. But I think one of the key misconceptions when people try to source from the US is it's not a one-stop shop, guys. Okay. If you look at the state of manufacturing in the US, many of the factories, they've already gone overseas like decades ago. All right. So you're not going to find the same selection of manufacturers as you would find in China and in Asia. So there's going to be a lack of engineers. I think the main benefits, on the other hand, is sourcing in your backyard, right? Short shipping times. You can fly to the factory, or maybe you can even drive to the factory or the manufacturer to visit them, to talk with them, to look them in the eye, right? There's going to be no communication or language barriers. There's no tariffs, no duties, and also you can say it's made in USA, and that does count. It can add value to your product, having that made in USA sticker. Whereas if your competitor is sourcing from Asia or from other countries. All right. But I just wanted to reiterate the biggest mindset shift is if you're white labeling products, if you're private labeling products, that doesn't really exist in the US. The US is for contract manufacturing. You need to go with your custom design. So it's not going to be as quick and easy as sourcing from a Chinese supplier in Alibaba. And credit goes to Liz Long, who works with entrepreneurs to help them source from US manufacturers for this big mindset shift quote. All right, thanks, Liz. So next, I also wanted to share with you some product categories that are available in the US, that are manufactured in the US. So these include apparel. A lot of clothing is still made in certain parts of the US, like downtown LA, there's a fashion district, accessories, leather goods, home textiles, medical equipment, skincare and cosmetics, electronics, furniture, jewelry, wearable devices, supplements, and tools. All right, so these are examples of products that can be sourced from the US. Some of the best places to find US suppliers include local government organizations, for example, made in LA, made in New York. They actually help these community organizations, they actually promote the local manufacturers and local suppliers. So you're able to, if you tap into this network, you can find a number of different suppliers. Thomasnet.com is another online site that can help you find US suppliers on Makers Row, Google, but don't overlook Google, don't overlook Instagram, even LinkedIn, right? You can find suppliers there, as well as trade shows. I mean, trade shows are highly underrated in my view. A lot of online sellers don't go to trade shows. I mean, this is one of the best ways to quickly find a number of different suppliers, because you can get hands-on with the products, you can talk to the vendors, you can get your questions answered, and you can develop a sense of trust and a relationship right away that it's very hard to do purely over email or even Zoom or over phone calls. All right, so highly recommend that you guys check that out. All right, so next I want to talk about another region that a lot of people aren't really thinking about, and that's Europe. Okay, especially if you're selling in Europe, I would say Europe could be a very good destination. But keep in mind, as the saying goes, it's like the tortoise versus the hare, right? Slow and steady wins the race. So if China is really fast, like the hare, Europe would be like the tortoise. They're not going to be as fast to reply you. There's people, joke that Europeans take a ton of holidays, like August, everyone's out. There's a degree of truth in that, right? You're not going to get the same quick responses as you would if you contact China, right? There's actually a good selection of products across multiple countries. I mean, Europe, the EU, it's a collection of many, many countries. It's not just one country. I mean, every country has different languages, different cultures, different manufacturing as well, right? I would say on the whole, the pricing is higher, but the shipping would be lower, especially if you are importing into other parts of the EU. There's duty-free opportunities, and then even some raw materials are available. All right. So some of the disadvantages sourcing from Europe is going to be a smaller product selection. Can't really compare with a behemoth like China. You're going to have to face higher MOQs, guys. The suppliers here are not going to be willing to talk about just 300 units. Higher prices on the whole, labor costs are higher, but remember, lower tariffs, no tariffs, possible lower duties as well. Less flexibility, they may be more rigid when it comes to their mindset, and also language barriers, because many, many different languages are spoken across Europe. Okay, I want to share with you an example of some common products that can be sourced from Europe, and credit goes to Signify Global Product Sourcing. So this is a bazaar in Turkey, and Turkey is one of the countries in Europe. So you can find a range of products, including household, kitchen, bathroom, food and supplements, baby products, family, pets and accessories, cosmetics, wooden furniture, wooden toys, textiles, chemicals, home and garden, art supplies, packaging, and more. All right. So remember, again, we have that bonus at the end, guys. Make sure you grab that, and it's free. And then you're probably thinking, okay, how do I find these suppliers in Europe, right? Okay, I wanted to share with you 5 resources. All right. Number 1 is Europages. This is an online site that you can find European suppliers from. If you're looking from Germany, there's WLW. Check them out. Global Sources is a site that has European suppliers. Google, and even talking to potential suppliers. A lot of time, if you reach out to one supplier, if they say no, you can follow up. You can ask them, can you recommend someone for us? Or if you were me, who would you talk to, right? So everyone's connected to a certain degree. And I think that's another great way to find additional suppliers. And credit goes out to Sebastian at Signify, and he shared some of these tips with us as well. So I wanted to pass this on to you guys. All right. So I know we covered a lot today. I wanted to quickly recap. So In terms of the different sourcing regions and countries, I would say China is still, everything under the sun is still the king. Um, but we're seeing there's reasons to source away from China, right? India is probably the fastest riser. They're very strong in handmade, unique products, eco-friendly products, but you're going to have to wait, right? And it's not going to be as easy to find suppliers. Mexico is really close to the US, guys. So it could be quicker shipping, it will be zero tariffs and zero duties as well. So you're going to be saving a lot on that. It could be cheaper shipping as well. But keep in mind, the culture is more laid back, it's going to be slower. You're going to have to hold the supplier's hands more, okay? Vietnam is for big players only the big boys. And we're talking about MOQs of container loads. And it's a mistake to think it's the same as China. It's slower than China. The product categories are more limited, but the benefits would be the free trade agreements with EU, with Australia, with Southeast Asian countries, and you can also circumvent the tariffs. The US, the big mindset shift, guys. It's not a one-stop shop like China, right? You're going to have to develop your own tooling, your custom products, right? If you have the same mentality to when you approach US suppliers, they're going to get turned off. They're not going to want to do business with you. The advantages would be the made in USA badge. Maybe you can command a higher price point, no tariffs, duties, or no communication or language barriers. You can probably fly out to go visit your factory pretty easily, right? All right, and then with Europe, I say this may be good for European sellers, right? Slow and steady wins the race. They're not going to be as fast moving as China. Good selection across multiple countries, higher prices, but lower shipping, duty free if you are in EU, and you can find some raw materials there. All right, so wanted to also share with you a quick recap of some of the products that you can source, and I prepared a full 100 item product country checklist. This is just an example, like a taste of the type of products that you can find. So in this sample, we have China, India, Mexico, Vietnam, and USA. So for example, if you're selling wooden products, you can consider China, India, Mexico, and Vietnam, but not USA. Probably don't waste your time there. If you're looking for home decor, check out China, India, and Mexico. But don't bother with USA or Vietnam. Okay, so if you want to learn more, I think this could be a good opportunity for you guys to grab that free bonus. All right. And I know we covered a lot, guys, but I mean, sourcing, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's more questions that people should consider. Can I source my product from XYZ country, or how can I negotiate the best price? How can I ensure quality, not get scammed? How can I save on my shipping costs, storage costs? How can I protect my IP designs from getting stolen and copied all over Alibaba? How can I safely pay my suppliers overseas? Or how do I even get started? And if you're a more advanced, maybe seven-figure seller, how can I find a trustworthy sourcing agent to get me out of Alibaba hell and having to deal with all of this, right? So to answer your questions, I created 4 special bonuses for you as a thank you for watching until the end of this video today. And it's going to help you know instantly if you can source X product from Y country, and also you can negotiate with confidence with multiple suppliers to get your target prices, better payment terms, as well as even find potential sourcing agents to take this off your plate. All right. So if that's helpful, I'd like to offer this to you, where you can grab these 4 bonuses at sevenfiguresourcingsummit.com. All right. Bonus 1 is the done for you sourcing country checklist for 100 different product categories, and everything will be scored across the 6 different countries: China, Vietnam, Europe, India, Mexico, and the US. And bonus 2, you will get the step-by-step negotiation guide that I created for negotiating the best prices, the payment terms, packaging, and more. Bonus number 3 is a request for a quotation done for you template, so you can quickly contact suppliers. And bonus number 4 is a sourcing agent checklist. So these are the 11 questions you got to ask before you hire a sourcing agent, and 3 red flags to avoid. Get those free bonuses at sevenfiguresourcingsummit.com. All right. And also, when you grab those bonuses, you're also going to get a free ticket to the 7-Figure Sourcing Summit, where you'll get a dozen masterclasses with sourcing experts from China, from India, from Mexico, from Vietnam, from Europe. This way you can learn, you can really deep dive, because we covered a lot today in this short video. But if you want to learn more, highly recommend you get that along with your free bonuses. And if you're thinking, this is a hassle, maybe you don't want to go through those resources, I can also personally guide you through this with my own insider tips, my years of experience sourcing for products, as well as saving money on shipping, and to help you save your mistakes so you can save time and money. I do offer private one-on-one coaching, and you can sign up for that at 8020sourcing.as.me/private coaching call. The link will be below the video. Any questions, feel free to reach out. Gary at 80sourcing.com. Thank you so much, guys. I wish you good luck with your sourcing wherever you go around the world. Again, highly recommend that you guys grab the free bonuses so that you can really find exactly the countries that you're looking for, the products that you want, and also save time and money while you're doing that. Thanks so much, guys. Talk soon.